Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I am your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got Sean Bair on the podcast. He is the co-founder and CEO of SWORN.ai. Pretty interesting episode. Sean is a serial entrepreneur. He actually started out as an entrepreneur when he was working for the Tempe Police Department, built a software that then he built into a business that was then purchased by LexisNexis, built 3 other companies after that until he built SWORN.ai 3 years ago. They help first responders deal with the stressors of their jobs using health data as well as agency data and providing some AI support along the way. So I think you'll get a lot out of this episode. So let's get Sean on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Sean, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being a guest.
Thanks, Justin. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in here. Sean, give us a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
I'm standing in my office in Provo, Utah. I am the CEO of SWORN.ai. It's a platform that allows police departments and fire departments to use biometrics, so Oura Rings and Whoops and Fitbits and all of that, along with their agency data to try and make their firefighters and their police officers as healthy and well as they can be. Stressful job, so that we're there to identify these stressors and try and bring AI to the game and offer insights to those first responders so that they can live long and happy, fruitful lives.
So when we talked a couple of weeks ago, kind of as on our prep call, I think this is very fascinating. I'm really excited to dive in. But I guess before we get into that, how did you start the company? Like I always like to know people's origin stories when it comes to being an entrepreneur and all that fun stuff.
This isn't my first rodeo. This is my 5th company now. My first one was actually also in this industry, this space. It was public safety analytics. So way back in the day in the early 90s, I started off as an analyst for the police department in Arizona. And in doing that, being a coder as well, I saw a need to make life easier for me so that I can be a faster and more effective worker. So I coded a piece of software that looked for patterns in data. And it allows us to find crime patterns and make predictions about who and where a crime was going to happen next. And that software was meant just for me. I was writing it just so that I could, be better at my job. But ended up happening is agencies started seeing our success and said, well, how can we get this? And so my agency said, well, you got to talk to Bair. He wrote this piece of software. And that sort of is the start of my entrepreneurial career. That software became very popular. Hundreds, thousands of agencies around the world used it. The Defense Department used it, Walmart used it, and Target and Macy's and Walgreens. They all used this software to try and find patterns in data. And so that was my first sort of entry into business and in entrepreneurship. That lasted more than 20 years. I exited that company in 2015-ish, roughly, to a company called LexisNexis. They acquired us for lock, stock, and barrel. So bought the whole thing. I stayed on for a short period of time, transition, and then thought I was retired. So my very first sort of business effort was with a beginning of not having any business sense or background about me. I got into it as a result of being an analyst in a municipal police agency. And I found myself having to learn business on the fly. Eventually, I went and got an MBA and other academics, but there was a lot of growth opportunity there. Also, it was worth noting that first company, I didn't raise capital. So it was all bootstrap. Right from the beginning. It was just whatever we made went right back in to build the business. And so when that exit happened, it was a wonderful day. And it allowed me a retirement opportunity at age 45. So I thought, wow, this is the dream. And at 45, I'll just, golf all day. And about 2.5 weeks later, roughly, is when I said, this is ridiculous. Retirement is boring and I need to contribute. And I have, talents and skills that I should should offer up and to apply to the world. So what's next? So I started the next venture, and then another, and I exited that last year. And then here I am now at SWORN, which was a start, again, coming back into public safety. The second company was a relationship management software. The third one was a URL shortener marketing tech. I also ran a company called GameSafe, which helped to leverage artificial intelligence to evaluate gameplay in Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox. And what it would do is it would look at the way that the child was playing, and then if there was anything nefarious going on, it would alert the parents. So that's the number one way. Those games are the number one way that predators get access to our kids is through those 3 games right now. And so that software was meant to find those weird emojis and cryptic messages that they use to try and get at our children. And it alerted the parents. So I did that too. So I've had most of my business professional career has been around serving and protecting, but the newest one is now SWORN, and I've got 3 partners in that, and we're trying to rock and roll this thing.
Awesome. Well, before we jump into SWORN, I like the fact that you were kind of almost like an accidental entrepreneur at the start, right? You kind of built something to make your life easier, and then other people said, well, that's pretty cool. Did you then, I guess, quit your day job to focus on the business? Because obviously you saw like, oh, wow, people want this, they like this. So let me just quit this day job to focus all my efforts on this kind of entrepreneurial venture that turned into an entrepreneurial venture.
So I know, because it was one of these things where because it wasn't, venture backed, it was a slow organic growth. So I mean, it was years in the making to where it started getting some real momentum, to the point where I still was able to do both. Now, having said that, in hindsight, I will tell you, when I in fact left my quote unquote day job, that's when the hockey stick happened for the company. That's when, finally my full time and dedication is on this one endeavor. And that's where I was able to see for myself, wow, had I just done this earlier, I could have done way better. But no, I was frankly somewhat frightened to let go of the shore. So it was, I've got this government job. It's so cushy, not cushy, but I mean, it's always going to be there. There's always going to be crime, and they'll always need people to fight crime. So I should have a job for, as long as I want it. And I just didn't know enough about business to have that confidence to go. So yeah, I held on to both for quite a while, working 70-hour weeks. But having said that, I will say a lot of the growth of the company came from my continued knowledge that I was gaining from being in the industry. So that was one of the byproducts of still having that, is that it allowed me to have that industry sort of know-how and knowledge and relationships within the business that I could leverage, for its growth. So
yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. I wonder if you tried to do that today, if some company that you worked for would have been like, we want some of that IP because you built it and, all that fun stuff. So kind of a good thing you did it back in the 90s.
Well, and what's interesting too is they had the foresight, the agency did, to even have documentation that an employee could build something. I mean, this was an organization, it was the Tempe Police Department in Arizona, very progressive, very forward thinking. And I wasn't the first one who had come up with an idea that they had sort of incubated while doing their job, and approached the city to say, hey, the city's not in the market of building widgets or writing software. Could I please take this IP and go make a go of it? The city was very encouraging and would release all those. Because, I mean, it's not in the business of writing software or selling, widgets, right? So, it was kind of cool.
That's awesome. So let's jump ahead to present day. So what is SWORN? How did it start? And then walk us through kind of how it all works and all that fun stuff. Because I like I said before, it's very fascinating kind of what you've built.
Yeah. So, trying to solve a problem. That's what I was doing way back in the early 90s. I was trying to solve the problem of the technology just isn't there to help us find crime patterns. And you have a pain point and you solve the pain point, or you try and alleviate it. And that's really at the crux or heart of business, isn't it? You look around you and you find things that irritate you, or that things that you want to improve upon, make efficient or effective. and then you see if there's a market for it. And that's what we're doing with Sworn. So one of the biggest problems that public safety has right now, both in fire and in police, and even into EMS, and beyond that, even into nursing, is that it is an extremely stressful job. And it's very difficult to have your employees who are encountering this stress literally throughout their entire shift then have to live normal lives. So what typically happens is the health insurance rates are very high. There's a rampant burnout. It's very difficult to hire people because people realize, well, that's a tough job. I don't want that. And it's going to be, taxing on my family. They also realize that post profession, a lot of them don't live long lives because of the cumulative stress that has happened throughout their careers. Typically, they die within 5 to 10 years beyond their retirement. So it's not one of these things where, okay, you can retire when you're 55 as maybe a sergeant or a police captain, or I should say a fire captain, and then life is grand. You've got that cumulative load on you, and all of those really nasty things you've seen. You can't unsee those things. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to help the individual that has to run to danger and has to deal with the constant cortisol dumps that they're experiencing because of stress. We're trying to make them mindful of it. And we can do that through biometrics. So I have an Oura Ring, I have a Whoop, I have Apple Watch, I got way too many things, a biometric for every finger on my body here. And we have great data with that. What we can also do is marry that up against the agency's data. So when I was a police officer back in the day, because I actually was one, I would go on what are called calls for service. And police and fire both do this, as do EMS. And so it could be a very benign, it's a cat stuck in a tree. Okay, well, I can handle that. I'm not stressed out. I'm driving there. I got the cat out, and life is good. Or it could be there's a robbery in progress and, you're the closest one there. And so immediately, your heart's pounding, you're stressed out, your mind is going 4,000 miles a minute. And then you deal with the situation. You may have to run, you may have to shout, you may have to do something, to even be hands-on with somebody. And you're also worried about what you could or, could potentially have to do. And then after the event, what do? You don't just, okay, well, now let's go to a cat and tree call and life is good. Well, they do that. That's what they do. But they're still carrying with them all that cortisol and all of that stress. And then they go home at night. And of course, they don't want to stress out the spouse. Here's what I saw. Here's what I experienced. So they tend to bottle that up and that eats at them. And so what we're doing is we're taking that biometric data that will surface that sort of data, combine it with the agency data so we know that they were on a cat in tree call or an armed robbery in progress call, or they were just directing traffic. And then we can help them through the AI by coaching them, by giving them insights and things that'll help them, like maybe bringing to their attention a breathing technique that the SEAL team 6 has developed to help them recover from stressful situations. And it's just really short, digestible, almost tweet-like type of content that they can use to hopefully recover better and to have a long, happy career.
And so are you requiring, because I would imagine, and I don't know this, but not every police officer, firefighter, or first responder wears a Whoop or an Aura or anything like that. Are you going to, how do you solve that problem? Are you trying to, partner up with these biometric companies to say, hey, let's go partner and I'm getting access to, I live in San Jose, the San Jose Police Department, but they don't have Whoops. And so would you do something to sponsor it? How do you kind of figure out the departments and the people that have the biometrics that you then can couple with the agency, data?
Yeah, we say BYOD, bring your own device. So we're device agnostic. Now, I will tell you there are better devices than some. I do like my Oura Ring. And in fact, we have a relationship with Oura where we get special pricing on it to be able to offer up to the police agencies. But again, I'm wearing an Aura ring and I'm wearing a Whoop. A lot of that is also to compare the data and to see where there are
Yeah.
differences. But yeah, the police agencies many of them will buy the technology for their officer because they just want to make it an employee assistance program or a health benefit that they offer. No different than, hey, we got you discounts to go to Gold's Gym. They can provide them this. The employee can use it or purchase it themselves too, and it could be their own device that they use with the technology. We also allow the individual to be anonymous. So the agency owns the police data. That's fine. They can use that how they need to, but the individual owns their biometric data. We do not share the biometric data with the police agency or the fire departments. They'll see aggregate. Okay, overall, here are the ups and the downs in your department, but they're not going to know that Justin had 4 hours of sleep and his HRV is 45. They're just not going to know that.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're making it so that it is a benefit to the employee, a benefit to the officer or the firefighter for them to be able to use it, and not just at work. So when I would be a police officer, I would take off my radio at the end of my shift and I would put it in my locker. I don't need that, right? That's part of the department, and I only need it when I am working. Whereas thankfully the Whoop and the other biometrics like Aura Ring are oftentimes almost 24/7. So we can also now have baselines against how they are at work versus how they are at home. And that's not to say that home is always the most stress-free environment, because sometimes, they could be going through divorce or something, and maybe their work is showing us where they're stress-free. And, they're like, I'll take that robbery call. I'm all good. I don't want to go home.
And so are you selling this, like the cost is obviously, I'm assuming, going to the agency, right? The police department, the fire department, but the police officer or firefighter, they're the ones getting a lot of the value because you are the prompts and everything are going to them. What is the value prop to the police agency other than saying, hey, we're going to hopefully help to de-stress your workforce? Maybe they work for you longer because they are less stressed, holistically. Yeah. So how do you kind of show the value back to the agency?
You picked up on it perfectly. You said it's in essence retention and recruitment. Retention's a big one because once you put forth the effort to hire somebody to be a firefighter or a police officer, that is a major commitment. I was in the academy. Well, first of all, I have to go through just all the testing that's required to get hired. And then once you get hired, you go to academy for 4 to 5 to 6 months, depending upon where you're at. I was 4.5 months. And that's at their expense. And then you come out and now you're considered not good enough to be on your own. So they stick you with another officer for another 6 months. So it's a long period of time. The last thing you want to do after spending a year plus getting this person to be, in essence, operational. We got a cop. We are out there. He's helping, fight crime, is to now lose him or him or her to a neighboring agency. Or them say, I'm out of here. This job sucks. I don't want to do this. So retention is a big aspect of it. And so we can help by measuring that. We show them, look, here's what, before you started the program and provided Howard and Shield to all your officers, here's where you were at and here's where you're at today. And also recruitment, because a lot of officers want to work for departments that care about the employees. So it's seen as just another employee assistance program that has value and benefit. I will share, there's one department that we just spoke to last week who, as a result of their efforts in managing and allowing employees to have access to these kind of technologies and being able to have stress reducing sort of programs, the Blue Cross and Blue Shield actually gave them a refund. The municipal department, a major refund, to the point where they were able to buy a building and house it with people who were providing employee assistance programs back to the agency. So it's an ROI is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's fascinating because you never hear health insurance companies giving back anything other than, a large increase, right? It's like, hey, here's your 20, 30% increase in your premium.
Let me comment on that because quick aside, this department with that Blue Cross Blue Shield, we never hear about that. I want to give a shout out to my health insurance carrier, who's Liberty Health Share, because my wife told me today they just sent us a check and it was an $800 refund. They said we collected the money and because it's a health share and we didn't
Yeah.
use it all. So here's your rebate. We were blown away by that in all of our years.
Interesting.
Yeah. Got it.
Is that through not to go down
Yeah.
this tangent, but is that through like self-employment, like so because it's through your
Well,
business?
so that's the thing is that was one of the weird lessons that I had to navigate or learn after selling Bair Analytics in 2015, because that was the same time that I'm going to call it Obamacare, but I forget the actual true term.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
I'm losing it, but I know what you're talking
So
about.
Obamacare. If you were on a health program through your employer, you could not be an individual and use that. You could not be an individual and go out and get Blue Cross Blue Shield. You had to be a part of a group. So when I sold, the health plan that I was under was now part of LexisNexis, and I was on my own, retired, but not old enough to start to reap the benefits of Medicaid and all that.
Yeah.
So I had two options. I could do Cobra, and that's only for a set period of time, or I could go do what I look to do, which is get on Obamacare. The cost for me to do that was astronomical. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way. So I was still under the LexisNexis umbrella for a bit. And so I had gone and saw my doctor to get a bunch of medical stuff done before I was off the plan, right? I'm like, I'm going to bank up here. And I asked my doctor, hey, what does somebody like me do? This was really expensive to get on that as a single person, or single payer, I should say. And, what do people do? And she's like, well, I'm actually on Liberty Health Share. I'm trying to get my husband, who owns a anesthesiologist, a practice, to also get on it. I love it, and we enjoy having it as a payer at our practice. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. My attorney, who I used to go through the entire program, I asked him, and he said the same thing. He's like, oh, you should try Liberty Health Share. We are now moving to that. So two people, a lawyer and a doctor, within like 3 days of each other, both recommended this. And so that's what we've been on since 2015. It was just kind of interesting. It's a weird caveat or set aside to the Obama program where it's through the Mennonite Church. So it's selective. You have to apply for it. They don't want you smoking or drinking. And if you're doing that, they'll try and help you get off that. But yeah, we've been on that ever since. Love it. It's cheap too.
We'll have to get them to sponsor this.
Seriously, I gave them the biggest shout out ever there. But
yeah.
Rebate.
So not a little bit of a hard pivot back to Sworn, but I've never been a police officer. I don't know many of them well, but on the TV shows I have watched and movies, the stigma around being a first responder is more of that bravado. You don't talk about your feelings. It's you always see the cop shows where it's like you just were in a shoot off and you need to go talk to the shrink, right, or whatever the person is you need to talk to. Like, how does this kind of demystify that persona that first responders put out, because obviously mental health is a big thing. Everybody's talking about it in sports and kind of work and all of that. So how does this kind of help almost make it less of a stigma to get help for stressful situations, because you're obviously using AI to prompt a police officer, a firefighter saying, hey, you just had a really stressful day. Here's something that may help. And oh, by the way, you can do it in the privacy of your own home. And we don't share this information with your friends and even your police department or fire department. Like, how does this kind of help almost like solve that problem so that people can kind of get the support they need in a very, private setting, essentially?
It's generational, because I'm 56. And when I was an officer, it was as you just described it. And up until probably 10 plus years ago, it was suck it up, buttercup, get back out there. Your fellow officers rely on you to keep it together and to pick up the load. And that's changing. So I will tell you that the new upcoming generation of first responders do understand actually how all of these stressors impact them. I think they're much more in tune and aware of how things can be optimized and tuned within their own body, just from a nutritional standpoint, a fitness standpoint, sort of a whole mind body thing as well. And they're actually demanding it. So that gets back to that recruitment idea, where the people who are typically choosing to be responders nowadays are looking at the departments to see, where do I want to work? Just as if I were to be a software developer back in the day, I would look and see like, who's good to work for? Well, Google feeds me 3 meals a day, and I get to play ping pong and go down slides and ride bikes around campus. Whereas this other place, I'm going to be in a dungeon and be coding all day long. So they're choosing which departments to go to. The departments then are picking up on that, and they're realizing we got a new generation that is expecting this kind of technology and this kind of awareness. So I think it's changing. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's good to hear. And I think hopefully your solution is kind of helping to, almost, because obviously there's probably multiple generations that are first responders still, right? Yeah. So how do you kind of, yes, you're being able to recruit younger, early career talent that's more asking for this, but you still have got the old guard, if you will, that are kind of still in that kind of suck it up buttercup mindset. How are you kind of leveraging AI, or I guess as you're starting this business, comparing it to maybe businesses that you've started previously? We're in the world of AI. People that are non-technical can at minimum vibe code something to the point of usability, but not full functionality. And obviously you're a technical person, so I wouldn't lump you into that category. But how did you kind of leverage AI to kind of help you build this product? And how did that differ from maybe starting businesses in the past?
Wow. Great question, because things are moving so quickly. It is scary. Way back in the day, again, 90s, we were in fact doing some AI things. We just didn't know to call it artificial intelligence. It was natural language processing or machine learning or neural networks. We were doing all of those things. The large language models weren't in existence at that point, or at least in a commercial way, right? So we were still doing natural language processing, regular expressions, things like that, but it was on a much smaller scale. And then throughout the years, it's become a little more commercialized and we've been able to use it. I would say that when we started SWORN 3 years ago, we had full-time developers that were writing in native languages that we could deploy. There was no AI being used to code or to help with algorithms or to help even brainstorm an idea or a topic or do research for how something might, be incorporated into our product. And within the last 6 months, that's completely changed to the point where, Claude just came out, or I should say the primary developer on Claude just came out, I think it was about 3 months ago, and said, yes, every line of code in Claude was coded by Claude. And that's a company that's writing AI software, and the AI is writing the software. So what we're becoming now is more orchestrators, somebody who has industry knowledge and sort of the knowledge, skills and abilities. They understand the nuance of how that industry works. They can be an orchestrator and develop, like you said, vibe code, literally commercial grade applications nowadays. 4 months ago, it wasn't even a commercial grade application. You'd still be like, I don't want to deploy this. Who knows what's going to happen? But nowadays, no, it's to the point where it's commercial grade applications. So it's a little bit exciting, but it's also scary, because what was once the venue of the entrepreneur or the startup, where it was speed to market, they could create something because it was nimble, they were quick, they could code quickly. They didn't have the bureaucracy of a large company to have to slow down production. So they could iterate very quickly and get a product to market and even modify it as they're going to market, basically building the plane as it's taking off, right?
Yeah.
And the big companies, that's how the little companies would compete. And so that was a sort of a nice little symbiotic relationship where little company creates something interesting based on industry know-how. They bring it to market. They start to get traction. They can go quickly because they're small. The big, Luddites are looking at it like, what are we going to do? And, oh, we need to do that too, but we either need to buy them or we need to build it. Well, it's going to take too long to build it, so let's just buy them. So you get that sort of process. That's what happened to me. We were a small-ish company that got bought by $1 billion company because they looked at it and it was a build versus buy decision. It's going to be too expensive.
Right.
So, but nowadays it's changed because now the playing field's been leveled. Yes, I as a solopreneur and entrepreneur can use AI and code something to bring it to market, but so can the big companies now. So that's what's scary. And I think that's what's changed a lot.
That's fascinating you bring that up because a lot of what I hear in the conversations around AI is going to, destroy the job market, going to take away everybody's jobs. And then you hear the people that are on the AI side saying about how entrepreneurship is going to balloon because you can do just what we talked about. Somebody that's non-technical can build something. But I never heard that other side of the story where I think, is a big company like LexisNexis going to vibe code Salesforce and kind of replace Salesforce? No, but they could vibe code something that's small that they would spend maybe $10 million to go buy this business that's fully built. I can just go build it and not spend $10 million. So that's interesting. So it could almost have an inverse impact on, yes, there may be a ton of businesses out there, but they're all going to get swallowed by big companies that are like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's just go build it ourselves.
Yeah. So it really comes, I teach business strategy as well. And one of the 4 main components is barriers to entry. You have to have those barriers, whether it's a patent, intellectual property, some sort of custom understanding of the operations or the market. Nowadays, it's going to be harder to put those up because they can catch you much quicker. So I think that's an interesting thing that's going to come from this. I think there will be a lot more code. I think there will be a lot more companies created too, solopreneurs and small businesses that decide, you know what, I don't need to buy HubSpot. I actually think we could vibe code this in a couple of weekends, and now this is custom to us and our environment. Right? I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that would be massively helpful. I mean, as a small business owner myself, there's some things that I don't like about some of the big software tools that are out there. And I'm like, man, I don't need this. I don't need all the stuff. I just need these things, but I don't need all the fit.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Maybe
that's what I did. I vibe coded my own CRM, Jarvis, because I wanted it to do all these different things. And I didn't want to spend the money on HubSpot and also data. I didn't want them to have my data. So that's the other sort of hidden component to all this is AI needs data more than really anything, because that's how it trains. So data is really the misunderstood or hidden commodity in all of this. And if you have that industry know-how and you can capitalize on that and build something against your understanding of the industry, develop some unique data that allows you that proprietary sort of barrier to entry that somebody else can't copy you because of your knowledge of what you've been able to capture data-wise, I think now you're in a unique position to execute. And so, yeah.
Fascinating. Well, there's a lot of recruitment AI software out there that I've been pitched that I've not looked at all of it, so I can't speak holistically. But it's built by developers, not by recruiters, and they just don't know how the workflows work. In my humble opinion. I'm curious. So we're kind of coming to the end of this episode here, but I have a couple final questions before we get to the final questions. But where do you go from here? Right? Obviously, you're selling into first responder agencies, police departments. Are you trying to expand this into, our frontline soldiers that are out there and how do we help protect them? And then are there other more commercial general employee applications? I mean, back in the day, I worked at Comcast and they gave us all Fitbits, right? And we had how many people could take the most steps in a day or a week, and you were on teams. And so I'm just curious if there's a both commercial and kind of federal or more government agency kind of application that you're trying to drive down.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned that they made it competitive too, because that's what we're going to start doing, because there's nobody more competitive than firefighters and cops. Man, let me tell you.
That's a good point.
So that competitiveness of it, but it also holds you accountable and keeps you motivated to want to lift the most, run the fastest, do whatever it is, have the most improvement. Yes. So the one piece of advice I might offer up to the listeners is to stay laser focused. So what we're doing is, because we have this industry know-how, I've been there, done that, and now I'm doing it again. So we're back in this industry because we know it. We know the players, we know the sales process, we know the requirements, we know the data requirements, all of that. We are starting in public safety. We're going to then move into EMS and then into probably nursing. And then beyond that, yes, corporate. I hope, and the way we're designing it, it becomes a platform for literally anybody who wants to improve their health and wellness. We look at fitness, nutrition, sleep, and experience. And so everybody's got those four, and we want to help them in those four quadrants. So I have Aura Ring. It's amazing at sleep. Whoop is pretty good at sleep and really good at fitness. My Apple Watch does good at fitness. But, My Fitness Pal as an app does great with nutrition, but nothing is doing everything. And everything meshes together. It all has a relationship. You're not going to get a strong fitness-wise if you don't eat right, if you don't sleep well, and all of them impact each other. So that's what we're trying to do. And yes, that's the goal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a YouTube, I think it was a YouTube video or an Instagram post a little while ago. Somebody was a fitness influencer, and they wore an Oura Ring, an Apple Watch, a Garmin, a Whoop, and I think one other device on the same arm or the same hand. And they took like 10,000 steps or 1,000 steps or whatever the number was, because they wanted to see how accurate they were. And I think Oura Ring was the only one that hit it right on the number. Some were like a little bit above, some were a little bit below. So I thought that was kind of fascinating because I used to be a big Whoop person. I use a Garmin now, and I find the only thing I didn't like about Whoop was I felt like I would wake up in the morning and I would feel great, and then I look at my Whoop and it said you had terrible sleep and you're in the red, and I'm like, no, but I feel great. And then the vice versa would happen. So it was like almost like impacting my day negatively without it, like with not feeling bad. I was like, this is controlling my mood, and I didn't like it. So, but yeah, I think if I had some more AI coaching, maybe it would help. Interesting. Well, I think what you're doing is very fascinating. I really applaud what you're up to, because I think, it's got to be a big uplift for what you're doing, but also I would imagine there's a lot of impact, a positive impact that you're having on everybody that are out there protecting us and, getting cats out of trees and breaking down robberies and all that other fun stuff, which is all important. I guess as you think about the next 12 months, I know we talked about scaling into different industries and everything, but what does the next kind of 12 months look like for you, for Sworn, and maybe anything else you're trying to work on?
Well, we're raising a round right now, so there's that effort underway. The thing that we're laser focused on is making sure the tech is accurate. You mentioned Whoop might have been a little bit different than Aura and Garmin. Garmin's very good, by the way. Garmin's also very accurate as a device, but I would never sleep in that big Garmin watch. So that's where you have trade-offs, right? Right tool for the right job. But what we're hoping to do is just continue to learn on the data, learn on how the users are benefiting from the system, and find ways that we can improve it for their use. And then hopefully start to see that the fruits of our labor are yielding results, that people are saying, you know what, I look at my sleep has gotten better. Look at my fitness has improved. Look at my nutrition's getting better. That's what we're after, is just to give back to people who have given us so much. And yes, soldiers are the next venture for us too. Defense, they already have a lot of Aura Rings in the Defense Department. They won a multi-billion-dollar contract, so there's a lot of soldiers running around with Aura Rings. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're all about it. And they have really good data, as I've seen.
Got it. Fascinating. Awesome. Well, Sean, man, we could go on. I would pick your brain about being retired. I feel like I've heard a few people that had a nice exit and they retired earlier than most. And then, a month or a couple months later, they have, businesses that they're starting because they just get antsy. I think it's the entrepreneurial bug that's in some people that, for me, I think if I had enough money to retire, I would just retire, but maybe I would experience 2 weeks and then I'd jump back into something different. So, but awesome. Well, let's round this out with a 3-pack of questions I ask every guest. First question is, what's a book or even a podcast, if you want, that you would recommend that you found helpful?
Well, the Growth Capital podcast is my favorite right now, so I just say that.
I appreciate that.
Beyond that, I do like Joe Rogan. I think he's got an interesting podcast in the way he interviews. He's kind of similar in the way you go off and we can come back, and just the easygoing interview style that you have. I think you can get a lot from your guests when you do that. So I think that's good. And I think he does. He gets people to say bizarre things on that podcast, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
Very diverse group there. Book would be, it's always been one of my favorites, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. It's just how you build relationships. And truly in business, I've learned that relationships are everything. They really are. You're not going to be successful unless you have those relationships.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie. Like, it's one of those things where it's like everybody's read it. Everybody's probably has a copy of it on their bookshelf. There's a few of those, like Good to Great, some of the other ones that are classics that you read. So awesome. Favorite thing to do outside of work?
So I actually like to go for drives in the mountains. So I used to play hockey a lot. That was my outlet, but it hurts too much after I play. So that's waned pretty substantially. But yeah, I go for drives in the mountain. I live really close to Mount Timpanogos and Utah, Wasatch Front here, all the big mountains. And I can get into Provo Canyon and just the most beautiful drive, no traffic lights for a solid hour. I just love being able to do that. Clear my head, look at the beauty around me, and just decompress.
Very cool. Last question here. Favorite vacation spot?
Similarly, Maui. Every time I'm not working, I do like to be able to have things to decompress. And that's one of the most beautiful places on the planet in my mind, particularly for relaxation and vacationing. So that's where my wife and I honeymooned. And each year or every year we try and go back. Every other year we try and go back and visit it and relive those.
Very cool. Yeah, we my wife and I got a chance to go to Hawaii. We went to the Maui for one of her. She was working for a SaaS company, and she got invited to the sales trip, and I was the beneficiary of that benefit. So,
good one.
Awesome. Well, Sean, man, if anybody wants to reach out to you, learn more about SWORN, pick your brain about entrepreneurship and all of that, what's the best way to connect with you?
A couple of ways. They can hit me up on LinkedIn, search my name. I have a website, SeanBair.ai. So they can go to my website. I've got some free resources for them. Upcoming book coming out, AI and Business Strategy. If they're curious about business and strategy, I've got that soon. Was just reading it today, and I'm getting close. So, cool. And then they could email me at I'm@SeanBair.ai. So everything's SeanBair.ai. Awesome.
We'll have all that stuff in the show notes so everybody can get to you really easily. So Sean, man, very, very appreciative of your time and sharing your story. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.